Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. The second I saw you were launching this, I was like dying to talk to you. I'm really excited.
Oh my gosh, that means so much to me. And so why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll get into all of the topics and just chat.
Great. Yeah. So like Caitlin said, I'm Sarah Steele. I am a working mom. I've been in the corporate world for coming up close to 15 years, which is horrifying. I'm not old enough to have been working for that long, but I'm in the corporate world. I am a marketing director for a global brand, and I have two boys, Isaac and Noah. They're 6 and 4, so life is full speed at all times right now, and it's awesome. I just started creating content online under the handle of the corporate mama, just talking about my experience as a working mom, because there were so many women I followed online that I felt like I didn't see myself in. So here we are several years later, and I'm just being crazy on a daily basis, sharing what that life looks like.
Like your content's so relatable, especially being a mom in a workplace. And I've always really appreciated it. And I want to know more about like your content journey. So when did you start posting on social media?
Yeah, so I actually had started the Corporate Mama as a blog back in 2017 that I kind of half used as a journal diary, half would write kind of how-to guides, like how to travel with a baby or how to go on a work trip and what to leave behind. And I never really fully invested in it. I think it was more for me and, my 5 friends who would read it when I would share it on Facebook. And then come COVID time, so just a few months before COVID, like maybe December 2019, I downloaded TikTok to prove a point at work. And I was basically gung ho about it being the wrong idea, and we should absolutely not be using this channel to reach consumers. And it's a bunch of teenagers dancing, and this is ridiculous. Uh, and then, 3 months later, everything shuts down and I start opening the app more. I'm like, it's kind of fun. And I'm
That is
seeing a lot
so
of people do
funny.
some cool things here. So I just, in secret, started just kind of posting some random stuff about life. A lot of it was kind of corporate comedy. So what it felt like working from home with a partner, also working from home in like a confined space, or, working moms trying to present with your kid, like playing the drums in the background, or like coming in and saying they have to poop or something, like in the middle of a really
Yeah.
important call. And so I just started posting stuff like that, um, but never telling anyone about it. And then I had this one random, and I'd never shared it on Instagram. I was like mortified anyone would know I was creating content and calling myself like a content creator. And I had this one post do really well, and it ended up being shared on Yahoo, and it got syndicated a lot of other places. And I'm just sitting there one night, and my boss at the time, he's great, and we're still friends today. Group text everyone on our team and was like, "Hey, I guess Sarah's famous. She has like 100 at the time. It was like 100,000 followers on TikTok, and she makes videos all the time about work." Wanted to die, but at that point, I was like, "Well, work knows." And my husband had found out by then. After a few months, he was like, "What are you doing in here? I can hear you talking to
So
someone."
you
Like,
kept it a secret from your husband.
oh my gosh, for at least 12 weeks, first 3 months at least, I was like in my closet, like,
Like embarrassed.
yeah, so I was so embarrassed for no reason. And then I finally, after that happened, I was like, well, I'm going to go all in on this now. And I started sharing things on Instagram and really deciding to like invest in this as a creative outlet for myself. I dealt with really bad postpartum anxiety, and having this was a really fun project and way for me to kind of find myself in a different way again. And I've never looked back.
You. So how old was so was it your youngest? Your youngest was born by then, right? So you had both
Yes,
boys. How
he
old was
was.
he?
He was like 10 months old when I started
Okay.
making content.
Okay.
And so my
Little.
older one
Yeah.
was almost 3. So I had a 2-year-old and an under 1-year-old. So my kids are 22 months apart. So I had two under
Wow.
2 for a while.
My girls are about 3 years apart, and
Okay.
so I hear, a lot of people have, like, 2 under 2, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, I just can't even imagine." My mom, she had 6 kids, and we're all about, like, 2 years apart, give or take,
Yeah.
but she had 6 of us, and I'm like, "I don't know how," that's a
Yeah,
lot.
I'm the
Um,
oldest of 4, and I don't understand how our parents did that.
it was just a different time, I feel like,
It
and it was
was.
just more
Yeah.
normal. I don't know, but anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, so during the pandemic, so were you working, at home
Mhm.
with both of your boys, and your husband, he was at home as well?
Yes, he was also working from home. Eventually, both boys went back to daycare, and our facility opened back up fairly early. Our part of the country, I think we just had things open earlier than other places. But at some point, they were both back in daycare full time. But my husband and I were both full time working from home for from then until now. We both continue to hold remote jobs. I think that's honestly the only way I was able to really create this second kind of career and job for myself was because I was home and I had the ability to, create content in some of my downtime between meetings or uh, after my kids would go to bed and maintain
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, it makes a difference because so when COVID happened, or before COVID, I was working in an office full time.
Right.
And then COVID happened, everyone went fully remote. And then
Hmm.
I recently went back hybrid. So 2 days in office and
Okay.
then three
Right.
days at home. And it's been kind of a change because I'll do the same thing. I'll like create content between, on my lunch or like after my girls
Yeah.
go to bed or, between like when I have a minute, just like quickly record something. And it's like when you're at an office setting, like, I mean, I guess I could still do it, in public, like in a public
Yeah.
office, but I would have to be a little bit more strategic. And also, I would just feel embarrassed. So,
Yeah. I would feel
in front of my
embarrassed. And
coworkers.
also, like, yeah. And I never want anyone to, think I'm not working or like that
Yeah.
weird mentality of like, oh, like Sarah's over there messing around with her phone or whatever, even
Yeah.
though that's not the case. And, you're just taking a
Yeah,
break.
for
But
sure.
totally, I bet that would be a struggle.
Well, I want to talk more about your career,
I'm a marketing
marketing
director.
director.
Yeah, I started my career in digital advertising and public relations. My degree is in PR, and I thought I was going to be a publicist and go work in fashion in New York. And very quickly realized the New York publicist thing was probably not going to play out for me. I really started thinking about what industries I liked and what I wanted to be doing. And at the time, I was working a lot in oil and gas and finance and just had zero passion for it at all. I was good at my job, but I didn't care about what I was doing. And I wanted to find a job where I was really impacting consumers and people on a personal level and doing something where I felt like the brands I was working for were making a difference in people's lives. So I got into the CPG industry, which is consumer packaged goods. So I spent almost 10 years working in various consumer brands in the food and beverage space. So I've worked for a beer company and a Greek yogurt company. I've worked in food and in diapers. And all of those things sound like they're not related. But what I've really strived to do in my career is find companies where I can come in and help build marketing programs where you're meeting people where they are in their lives. So instead of, say, selling rice, I was helping create solutions for families to make it easier for them to spend dinner time together.
Mm,
Or diapers, instead of, selling a diaper that's the most absorbent, you're giving your baby a more comfortable night's sleep, or you're giving mom, that 1 hour longer before she has to go in and do something else. And so I think it's really interesting that that has now shifted from what I've done in a career to what I also talk about online, because I think I've always just had this underlying want to reach people and make them feel seen and recognized, even if it's been through the corporate lens of literally selling food at the grocery store. Like, to me, there's a red thread of being able to just support people on their journey to whatever it is they want to do.
I was thinking about this last night when I was preparing for this interview, but like from my experience, When I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so
Hmm.
it kind of got to the point where I was like changing my major. I did all my generals, I got my associates. And then when I had to choose, I just kept changing. And so
Yeah.
eventually I just kind of got frustrated and I was losing credits and
Hmm.
I felt like I was wasting my time. So I just stopped going. I just
Yeah.
like dropped out of college. I was just like, I'll figure it out later. 10 years later, I still haven't figured it out, right? And what I like
Yeah.
about your story is that you thought you were going to do one thing but you didn't
Hmm.
allow that to change you decided, "Oh, I don't want to do this. I want to," and then you just pivoted yourself into something else. And for some reason I thought I always had to just know, like I would have like an aha moment and that would
Yeah.
just be like the end of it. And that's
And
just
I'll tell
not
you right
how it is for
now,
most people.
yeah, it's not at all. And a lot of people who knew me in college would be shocked to see where I am today. I will tell you that right now. I think my parents always believed in me, but even they're probably a little shocked if they're going to be fully honest. I've talked about this a little bit, but I think it's really important when talking about career, especially for maybe other moms. I almost got kicked out of college. I went to college. I chose my college solely based on cheerleading. So I was a cheerleader in college, and I picked the school I wanted to go to based on where I wanted to cheer. And then really early into college, I had a really bad back injury and required like a significant surgery and operation on my back, and basically gave up on like school, doing anything responsible. I quit going to class. I would like do just enough to like pass tests. I had an abysmal GPA, like was on academic probation. My parents were like, "You are going to move home and live in this basement if you do not get your act together." And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was an accounting major at the time in like business. No idea why I didn't want to do any of that. And it took I've had a couple, I think, when I look back in life of these like kind of transformational moments. It took me being at that kind of at the time in my life feeling like that was rock bottom of like nobody's going to come in and do this for you, and you have to make the decision to turn it around or find something that you want to do. And if it's not accounting because you're failing like almost every class, do something else, try something else.
Yeah.
And I spent some time just seeing what options even were, because my goal and my expectation, I think, for my family was always I would go to college, but I never really gave thought to what did that mean and what was I going to do in college and what did I want to study. And so when I found PR and marketing and kind of journalism and this idea of studying how to do storytelling, I was like, how had I not known about this before? Like, why didn't I know that this was a career path option? And it's like the second I made that change, my grades skyrocketed. I was passionate about things. I wanted to go to class because I liked what I was talking about. I have ADHD, and I talk about that a lot too. And it's kind of like I became hyper focused on school because I liked what I was learning, and it didn't feel like this painful, dreaded thing. It was like, wow, I get to go do this today. And I try to do that now in my career too. When I have obstacles come up, whether it's, a really bad project at work or something happens, or even in your case, like I still have days where I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I want to do with is this what I want to do for the next 30 years really until it starts to get closer to retirement age? Sometimes the answer is no. I try to just focus on like what is it that makes me happy and how can I find a way for that to sustain my lifestyle and do it in a way that I'm still able to, be a mom and be with my kids. And I think it's like an evolving conversation. Like there's no moment in time, if I can tie it back to your life, there's no moment in time where you have to be like, yep, this is the path, this is the answer. You can change it tomorrow and again in 2 years and again in 5 years, and it'll be fine because it's your life and you're the only one in it that matters if it's working for you or not.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love that advice so much, and I was just, like, thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know why I always just thought I would have that aha moment, because
Yeah, and I think we're
I
sold
don't think
that.
anyone has it, or very few
Yeah,
people have
and I
that,
don't know why we think we will. It's like we're told like, "Oh, like you'll find your passion and it's just going to like light up and the path is going to be clear for you."
Yes.
And I think
Yep.
it's just not how it is. You kind of just have to like make one. Like make
Yeah.
your path, and then maybe you get those little aha moments like throughout the way as you feel like you're getting closer to like what you want.
Yeah, well, and I think also for me, it was like, so I live in Utah, and my
Hmm.
mom's a stay-at-home mom, had 6
Hmm.
kids, so my parents had a very traditional family. So that, and it was more rare to see a woman, a mom, someone else's mom, like work outside of the home.
Sure.
And so that I think also like contributed to my own personal, because I didn't see career women. I didn't see women who were
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
And my own mom didn't, and that's fine. But like I think that also like contributed to it as well. I'm curious, like on your side, you're the oldest, you said the oldest of four,
Hmm.
all girls, or do you have any
Um,
brothers?
I have one brother, so it's me, and then I have a brother, and then two younger sisters, and
Okay. And
we're all very different.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
did your mom work outside the home?
She did. She just retired last year. And so I have almost the complete opposite experience. My mom was in the corporate world in a leadership position until last year. And my dad actually started staying home when I was in, I think, middle school. And at the time, there wasn't this notion of a stay at home dad. Like that phrase and terminology didn't exist. It was like people would call him like Mr. Mom. That was like his nickname, which I
Yeah.
now look back and I'm like, I said it endearingly as a kid, but I look back and I'm like, that's so offensive. And like, I would
Mhm.
cringe if I heard anyone say anyone is like Mr. Mom right now. Like, no,
Well,
they're a
there is a
parent.
country song that's like, I can't remember how it goes, but it talks about being like Mr. Mom.
Oh, really? Oh, that's funny. I'll have to look
He
it up and send
loses
it to
his
my dad.
job. He loses his job and then he has to stay home with the kids, and like basically a song about like how chaotic it is at home.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to send that to my dad. That's so funny. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I benefited from that because I saw my mom in that kind of a career, so I knew it was possible. And then I think I also, on the flip side, held myself to a standard of what if my career doesn't look like hers, and what if I'm not in a leadership position? And it
Yeah.
was this interesting dynamic. But now as an adult, it's great. And I have her to turn to for advice. And I've always asked her for career advice. But the past few years, it's more been like, how the heck did you do this with kids?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. How did you make this work? And we have really frank, honest conversations about priorities and not getting the things that feel good to you sometimes because you're taking care of your kids and making sacrifices and um, really enlightening conversations that I hope to have with my friends and other women just to understand how they're balancing it or attempting to balance it, because I don't think the balance is actually possible as a working mom. But it's been
Yeah.
really nice to have her wisdom and insight, even though I don't do things exactly the way that she did. And I put my own, spin on it. But it's been nice.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about. And when I asked questions on my Instagram story yesterday, we had a few people who asked like pretty similar questions, like how are you able to balance it all? You're a marketing director, so you have I'm assuming a demanding job that takes up a lot of your time. I know that you
Hmm.
travel a lot. And then you have your two boys, and then you're also, running your Instagram account and posting content and branded
Yeah.
pieces, like working with brands that takes a lot of work as well.
Yeah.
So curious kind of, what your approach is on balancing it, even though I know the balance isn't really there, but just kind of curious your
Sure.
thoughts on that and your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I will have to look up what this article was, but there is a story that stuck with me a few years ago that talked about glass balls and I think plastic balls and kind of what happens when you drop them. If it's like a rubber or plastic ball, it's going to bounce, and if it's a glass ball, it's going to break. So the first thing I do is when I look at all the buckets of my life, I look at what are the glass balls that if I don't make those happen, like they're going to break and I'm going to lose that chance or that opportunity. And the things that are glass balls can change daily. Like sometimes if my son is having the hardest week of his little life, a glass ball might be I move a meeting so that I can go to the class party. That on a normal week, I would be like, you know what, bummer, I missed the class party, but I'm going to send in, $20 for the cupcakes or whatever. So I try to give myself the grace and flexibility to shift what my priorities are, to, have even some semblance of that balance. And I try to be the architect of my own life. But to your point, I have a job that's not always flexible with that. Leading a team and being responsible for a large piece of a business, comes with a lot of demands. And I'm fortunate enough that at this stage in my career, I can afford to outsource a lot, really. So when people ask me how I accomplish a lot of this, I will be the first person to tell you that I use services for a lot of things. I pay to have my home cleaned. I pay for aftercare. So my kids are somewhere when school ends, but it's still the work day for me so that I can get a few more hours of my work day in. I pay a virtual assistant to help with a lot of my social media business. I pay a manager who helps work with brands on my behalf so that I can spend my time really just creating the content and engaging with my community. And I'm not spending all my time going back and forth in emails and negotiating things and spending time like sharing analytics and performance, all of which are important. But when I look at what's the best use of my time, if I can afford for someone else to do that and give me that time back to spend with my kids or my friends or with myself, I do. So without other people in my life and without support, I wouldn't be able to do those things. And then I also have to realize when things have to take a back seat. So if I have a lot going on at work and a lot going on in my personal life with my kids or anything else, sometimes my social media content is going to be less that month and there will be fewer posts and I'll be online less because it's not something I'm able to prioritize at that time. And I used to get really caught up in, oh, well, I'm not growing and I have to have X amount of posts a day. And if I'm not engaging with this many people, it's all going to fall apart. And I've realized that this community I built is a bunch of women just like me who are trying to just get it all done. And no one's going to be upset or care if I take a week to prioritize what's important in my life. And if anything, that makes me more authentic to who I hope they think I am in this space. So, really, I think it's just being your own advocate and looking at what you need and doing what you can to make that happen. And that a lot of times will mean disappointing other people or letting other people down. But I've had to get comfortable being okay with that and letting other people down sometimes because otherwise, I've learned this firsthand. Like if you don't take a break or prioritize what's important to you, like your body will do it for you and it'll shut you down. So
Yeah.
just trying to protect my peace at all times.
But as like a content creator too, like I feel that as well. Like you feel the pressure of like you have to show up every day, you have to post like X amount of times, or you see other people growing faster than you or doing more
Mm-hmm.
than you, and you're like, how are they able to do it? And I should be able to do that. So it's so easy to get into that. And that's something that I
Yeah.
really admire about you in your content approach is that you have taken, some time because of things going on like in your personal life or with work, whatever it may be. That's something that I've really admired and noticed. And it's like, oh, that's almost like giving me permission that like it's okay for me to do that too. And it's okay for me to not show up, constantly. And it doesn't, it's okay. The other thing I
Absolutely.
wanted to ask was like about mom guilt, as far as like one other thing that I kind of fall into, and I know a lot of other women fall into as well, is like we feel conflicted between having like we want a high powered career, especially if we're very ambitious people, and but we also want to show up for our kids. We want to do pickup. Like pickup is a big thing for me too, and it's something I've been struggling with because pickup doesn't work for working hours, right? Like pickup is
Yeah.
at 3 o'clock, and on Fridays it's at 1, but working hours
Yeah.
go until 4:30 or 5. So, do you ever feel guilt, like mom guilt, not doing aftercare? Or let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
I do all the time and I always have. But I think what I have started to accept is that the things I'm feeling guilty about, that usually tells me that something's been off. Because I thankfully have never really felt the need to apologize for having a career because it affords me and my family so much. But I did, especially when my kids were super little and I was traveling a lot, I would have really extreme guilt about kind of just like picking up and leaving. And I had an easier time with the little things. Like pickup was um, less of an issue for me because I always did drop off. So I felt like, okay, I'm doing what I can. I'm here, but traveling a lot was hard for me at first. And I think over time, what I've been able to tell myself is this is an incredible opportunity I have to show my kids what it looks like to prioritize yourself and take care of yourself and pursue your dreams and your passions and what it means to work hard at something and be rewarded for it, that they can then translate back into, I really like that I get to go to school and spend time with my friends. And it's important that when I'm at school, I work really hard on, our letters, whatever we're doing that day. And that the reward is, is there and you have a more enjoyable experience. But I get really down on myself when I start to think about like, okay, what are these little moments that I've missed on, and are these what they're going to build their core memories around? And as someone with ADHD, but I also just think as a mom and anyone who's dealt with anything postpartum, or even if you've got a full clean mental health checklist, you get overwhelmed sometimes, and I get extremely overstimulated. So despite my best efforts and what I tell myself about, what I'm showing to my kids, I have days when I lose it and I lose my temper or I snap and I'm just not the best version of myself. And I'm hard on myself about those too. And I think what I've found that works for me and for us is just owning it. So owning it to myself that like, hey, that was not your best look in front of your kids, and then also owning it with them of not just apologizing like, sorry, I shouldn't have done that, but explaining to them like, mommy was having a really hard day at work and mommy is feeling really sad or really frustrated by this thing, using words that we're working with them on using for their own bodies and sharing their feelings. And then mommy yelled, and that is not okay. And just making sure they don't fully understand, any of my stressors, but knowing that like there was a cause, there was a trigger, I reacted that way, and I'm sorry. I try to just own it as quickly as I can in the moment. And they're always like, okay, I love you, and give me a kiss and run off.
I know.
But it makes me feel better that like I'm addressing it. And so, I mean, I don't have the answer, but I think those are little ways that I try to, you know, make myself feel better about it, and just knowing that they're kids, and they're going to have to learn along this with me. I'm also in the process of getting divorced right now. So I think some of that is heightened for me because I have less time with them. So I put a lot of pressure on myself for the time that I am with them to be. At first, I think I was putting pressure on myself to make it be like fairy tale Disneyland. Like when you're at mommy's house, like everything's perfect and amazing, and you have
Yeah.
like the Pinterest mom. And like, I'm like, oh, wait, I literally still have a job and all this stuff, all this other stuff I have to do, just with less help and support now. So like, no, it's definitely not going to be Pinterest mom, and they're going to have to be okay with like their same mom. Um, and that's been a whole nother level of mom guilt, where I just have to tell myself like, I'm doing this with their best interests in mind, and I have to just be okay that it's a little uncomfortable right now, and not beat myself up too much about it.
Yeah, that's something that I experienced too, and I'm still going through. So I've been
Yeah,
separated, separated and
yeah,
divorced for a little over a year now. And yeah, it's hard when you don't have your kids full time. You feel like you're missing out. You have even less time with them, which just adds more pressure
yeah.
to make the time that you do have with them like more special, or to
Hmm.
make up for the time that you lost. But it
Right.
catches up to you eventually because you can't really keep
Yeah,
up with it, and you still have a job that is, Monday through Friday,
yeah.
the same hours. It's not like you only work on your non-custody
Right.
days and you can give
Yeah,
your
and
full
I
attention to
think
your
I
kids.
thought, yeah, I think I thought like, oh, I'll just bank up energy on that week they're not here, and then when they come back, I'll
Yeah.
be like, ah. And I was like, that's not how it happens. I just use that week now to do all the stuff I can't do when they're here.
I know. It's like
So,
playing catch up, and like maybe I don't
yeah,
know what your
one or the
custody time
other.
is, but yeah. Well, I don't know what your custody time is, but mine is like a pretty big stretch of time. So I have my kids 9 days and then they go with their dad for 5. So I'll have 5 days
Okay.
where I don't have my kids. It's like the first like 2 to 3 days I'm playing catch up. I'm like recovering.
Yeah.
And then I get to the point where I'm like,
You're like, okay,
okay,
come
like
back.
I'm fully rested. But other people
Yeah.
who have different parenting times, like the 2 2 3 3 or shorter times, like yeah, that's just enough time to like catch up on the laundry, like get your house in
Yeah.
order, like collect your
Yeah.
thoughts.
I'm week on, week off right now. And so
Okay.
it's so 7 and 7. And
Yeah.
it's kind of similar. I'm like the first couple days I'm like, oh, deep breath, that was a lot. And then, you do
Yeah.
one or two things for yourself, and then you're like, okay, where are you? I'm gonna go
Okay,
sit on your
four
bed and
more
look at all your
days.
stuff. Yeah. But
I
that's when the
know.
FaceTimes really pick up and they're like, hi
Yeah.
again. I'm like,
Hi again.
hi. They're like, hi again,
I
mommy.
know.
I'm like, hi, I'll see you in 3 days. They're like, okay, crazy lady.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's so funny because we do FaceTime too, like almost every single
yeah,
night, vice versa. But I'll like call the kids, or my ex will call with FaceTime, whatever, and like the kids won't even
yeah.
want to talk to me sometimes. They're like, I don't want to
I
talk to
know.
mom, and it's
Sometimes, yeah,
I'm
they'll be
like,
like
what? What do
playing.
you mean?
Yeah, they'll be doing a puzzle or something, and he's like, "Say hi to mommy," and they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Oh,
Why?
okay." I'm like, "Cool, thanks, guys."
Oh man. Well, and I think that just is proof that like it doesn't affect kids the same that it I mean, it affects them, but I don't think it affects them to the level that we kind of build up in our minds.
Yeah,
It's
and I
just
think you
nice
and
to
I
know
are
that
both in
they're okay without
situations.
us.
Yeah, and I think you and I are both in situations where like both partners are really prioritizing the kids' well-being and like making the
Yeah.
best effort possible, and it's been a relief for me, I think, to see that like you're to your point, like they're fine. Like they're
Yeah.
fine. Everybody's fine.
How do you like
Yeah.
the 7-7? Do you feel like it's a lot, or yeah.
I like it because, then you've got a weekend, you have a full week of work. And I think just with my travel schedule, it would be hard to do like I have some friends who do like 2 3 2 and some of those. And I'm like, I feel like I would have to be changing it all the time and be like, I can't do this week. I can't do this. I have this work thing. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
for me, just logistically, it would work. Um, but it's hard sometimes, like toward the end of those 7 days, both times, like when I'm on day 7 of not having help, um, with both kids there, and then also when I'm on days 5 6 of not seeing them, it can be hard both ways. I'm still getting used to it and kind of mapping out what does my life look like right now.
Yeah.
I want to be more intentional about how I'm using my time. So that's kind of a on my list for this year of like really kind of designing what I want life to look like right now. Cause I swear I'm still right now, just now, like catching my breath from all of it. I feel like,
Yeah, for sure. It definitely takes some time, and it's just like a journey and a process. A few people on Instagram just asked, like, just want to know, like, how are you doing?
oh, that's so sweet. That's really
I
kind.
know, isn't it?
That's so nice. Like, I feel like you and I both have some of just the best people in our communities.
Yeah.
And I'm doing I'm doing okay. It's a big life change. I'm going through a lot of changes right now, and I think I'm trying to look at it as this is the cheesiest thing I've ever said. I'm trying to look at it almost as like this like butterfly moment of like I'm just kind of shedding a different layer and I'm
Yeah.
going to get some new wings and I
You're coming out of the cocoon.
yeah, I am. I'm coming out of a new cocoon. I'm good. I feel more in tune with myself than I have in years, which is really nice. But what's interesting about that is as I'm getting really comfortable with who I am and what I want to do, I'm recognizing some other things are maybe not in alignment. Like, oh, maybe there are some friendships I've been holding on to that I haven't felt very fulfilled in, that I'm like, putting a lot of the work in, or am I taking care of my body physically in the way that I want to? So it's like I have this like kind of we were talking about aha moments earlier. I've had this aha moment about, what is my life going to look like as me? And it's there are other implications. I'm like, okay, a lot of stuff in my life maybe that I didn't think about hasn't been serving me. So I'm good, but I am kind of trimming the fat on some things in my life. So I will hopefully continue to get better, but I'm good and thank you for
Yeah.
asking.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really sweet. There was, I think, 3 or 4 people that were just genuinely curious how you were doing, and, being
Yeah.
a newly single mom, and kind of how you're adjusting. You've kind of already
Yeah.
talked about it, about like your adjustment period, going through that. But anything else you wanted to add to kind of how you're adjusting to a single mom, or being a
Yeah.
single
I
mom?
mean, I think I'm in one of the best case scenarios. Without sharing too much about, my personal situation because it of course involves, other people in my family. feel so supported right now. I have an awesome co-parenting relationship. I have an amazing family and friends. So even the days that have been like gut wrenchingly hard, because those still happen, I have my people I can call, or I know that if I go to sleep, like it'll feel better when I wake up. So I really feel like, not that anyone ever hopes that this is the situation they find themselves in, but I found myself in probably the best version of for myself that I can imagine. So it's been a relief that it hasn't been, it's scary, but it hasn't been this horror story that I've heard of for people. I feel really supported and loved.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, I've heard so many horror stories, and my parents got divorced when I was 10, and they had a high conflict divorce, and that's always like in the back of your mind. I feel like when you're going through that process, like God forbid, but it really doesn't have to be. And of course, it involves another person, so you can only
Right.
control what you can control.
Right.
But it's nice to know that there's like light at the end of the tunnel. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I want to get some questions because I added a
Okay.
question box to Instagram yesterday. And so wanted to
Perfect.
know what everyone wanted to ask you. So I want to ask some of the questions. So
Great.
one of the questions, this is verbatim. It's how the hell do you take care of your kids and yourself with ADHD?
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I got to read that one verbatim because I
How
get
the
it.
hell do I do that? I mean, I it's crazy and chaotic, and I am not going to lie to you. I am not one of those people that's waking up early before her kids and like doing all this stuff to make things easier. Should I? Yes. I just can't. And so honestly, it's organized chaos around here. Like I do the bare minimum that I can get my brain to agree with the night before, like lay out shoes and backpacks and check the folders right when they get home so I don't have like food at the bottom of the backpack. And I'm like seeing the folders, like what needs to get done. I'm like, what are the bare minimum things that have to happen? And then I'm like, work smarter, not harder. What is the easiest possible dinner that I know they will eat? And then I typically eat after them. So I don't try to force like a family meal time if it's not going to happen, because it's easier for me to like task stack, almost like feed them while I'm doing dishes, or feed them and have them watch a movie while
Yep.
I'm folding clothes and I'm getting their shower turned on and doing different things. So I am doing a lot of things at once. And then I let go right now in this season. I let go of any expectation that it's going to look like something someone would tell you to do in like a Pinterest post, because it's just
Yeah.
not happening. It's a mess over
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, it's kind of refreshing to hear that. One of the other questions that someone asked was like, you look like you have it all together. Like you have this amazing career, you know these two beautiful boys, and they're little boys. You're a content creator, like you're going to the gym, you're taking care of yourself. Like how are you able to do that and balance it all? So I think it's refreshing for people to hear also that it's like organized chaos. It's not always what it looks
Yeah.
like on the outside.
Absolutely. I think, especially sharing some of my personal news recently, people are like, well, your life always looked so perfect. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, I think there's a difference in sharing something that's relatable and sharing what my day looks like than like, I'm not as comfortable sharing like deeply intimate personal moments, like getting on, like, I just had the biggest fight ever, or like, I had the worst meeting ever at work today and I'm sobbing and my kids are in the back of the car screaming at each other. I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
I
I
can
feel like that's
appreciate that,
something I
seeing
would
that from
do.
like, and I totally can appreciate it from people, but sometimes I'm just like, dude, I'm just not comfortable. Like
Yeah.
I might lose it if I post that right now. Like I'm hanging on by a thread. But I mean, the only reason all of this stuff gets done over here is because I just like kind of grin and bear it. It's like a season right
Yeah.
now of like, I'm not prioritizing sleep and rest. So it comes at the expense of something else. If anybody thinks I'm just doing it all easily.
Yeah. How much sleep do you get a night, would you say?
Oh, God, like 5 hours, maybe.
What
It's
did you
bad.
say?
Like 5 hours, I think.
Five?
Like five
See, I
hours of sleep.
prioritize sleep. I'm like, I got to get a full 7 to 8 hours. Like, I don't
I
care.
really
Like, I'm
need
not
to.
finishing that project.
Oh, I see, that's one of the things. Like I have to start sleeping more,
Yeah.
but I'm not
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, everyone is just kind of different in that way and like what their needs are. But that's like my love language is just sleep. I love like the second my kids go to
I
bed, I'm
love to
like maybe I'll
sleep.
do one or two small things, but that's about it.
Yeah, I need to start keeping my phone like in my bathroom or something, not by my bed.
Yes, I do too. And I actually, so I worked with a coach before, and I did
Hmm.
that for a little while because it's
Oh
just such
wow.
a habit to just like pull up
Yeah.
Instagram and like look at look at your emails like right when you're trying to like wake up. So I did do that for a little while, and then my daughter went through a sleep regression, and I wanted the baby monitor, which is on my phone
Oh yeah.
again, and so
Yeah.
I've got to break that habit again because it really does make a
Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, couple other questions. So someone asked, and maybe you can guess who asked this, but she said, I need a full report on the wax candles.
Oh my gosh. That's really funny. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I do know who asked that.
Okay, you don't have to
They will
answer. I'm
be
like, it's an inside joke that I obviously don't get, but
yeah, they'll be delivered today, so I'll report back.
okay. And then what is your Starbucks order?
Ooh, okay. Right now, my Starbucks order is I am doing a grande iced blonde latte with
Mm.
2 pumps of sugar-free vanilla, and I add the sweet cream or vanilla sweet cream cold foam on top. I don't want
Oh,
to know
that
how
sounds
many
so good.
calories are in this, and I refuse to check.
Yeah.
I just do regular milk, like 2% or whatever.
Yeah.
And I tell myself it's okay because it's sugar-free vanilla syrup. But I I have no idea how many calories are in it. Sometimes I'll do a third shot of espresso, depending on if it was one of my 5 hour sleep nights.
Yeah.
And then I'm wired for many hours.
Yeah, for many hours. So it
Yeah,
lasts all day. That's
that's my
good.
order. That's my order right now,
Okay. I'm gonna have to
and it
get that
is
next time I go
daily.
to Starbucks and I'll try it. But you get
Yeah,
the iced, don't you?
I get iced year round. Like it was like -2 degrees here the other day, and I was like, iced coffee, please.
Yeah. And see, I'm the opposite. It's like it could be 100 degrees outside and I'm like, I
You'll
want a
have hot
hot
coffee.
coffee. Yes. It's
Oh
just I
no,
don't know what it is. It's like something
I
comforting
only
about it.
Yeah, I only do hot coffee. This is really bizarre. I do hot coffee at like a restaurant. So like if I go to brunch or something, I'll get a coffee with like cream and sugar in it and hot coffee. Or on
Yeah.
vacation, I'll do hot coffee for some
Okay.
reason. Like
On
sit on like the
vacation.
patio and like
I
have
know.
that
Isn't that the
comfort
best?
feeling. Yeah.
So can you provide any advice for working moms aspiring to climb the corporate ladder?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, know what you want and don't be afraid to ask for it. So, as a working mom, I think you've got to be able to know what your boundaries and priorities are. So, what do you want out of your career? Whose help do you need to get to those places? And what are you willing or not willing to trade off or sacrifice, either in your life or in your career to make those happen? And so, basically, being an advocate for yourself in that space. So there are a lot of sayings around this, like closed mouths don't get fed, and things like that. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. All of these, and those are all fine. But I really think it just comes down to knowing that despite anyone in your organization's best intentions, whether it's your boss or a member of senior leadership, despite really well intentioned people above you, no one is really looking out for you and your long term career's best interest at the intricate level that you are. And they might think of you for an opportunity, but you're not top of mind daily for them. So it's up to you to really be vocal about experiences that you want to have, whether it's something as big as a promotion or changing into another, maybe cross functional team if you want to move from marketing into sales, or even something smaller of just, hey, I want to get some experience public speaking. Could I join our organization's um, employee resource group for this and come in and speak about whatever? Get really comfortable asking for people's help or asking for advice on what you can be doing to position yourself for those things, because I have found generally most people do want to help and people love to talk about their own experiences and how they could benefit you. It just takes getting over that first step of like going after what you want and being able to say like, no, I want to be in a sales leadership position in 36 months from now. What do I need to do to get here? Who can you introduce me to? What skills do I need to develop? And really putting the onus on yourself to make it happen and not waiting for somebody to do it for you. And finding, I think, an advocate for you at a level above you if possible, which I know can be a challenge. another working mom. Have found those to be some of my best resources, even if they can't do anything directly to help me within the company. Sharing their experiences of how they've navigated things as a mom at that company or organization has been invaluable to me.
I love that. Really good advice there. Perfect. And then just let's see another question here. What advice would you have for maybe a woman who has been out of the workforce for X amount of years because they had kids and they want to get back in it? Do you have any advice or where women should
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, I love hearing this question. And I see like a resurgence of this happening when I look online. And I think it's so amazing. Moms are so powerful. And I'm like, if you want somebody to get something done, hire a mom because moms are just
Yes.
incredible.
Yes.
There are two organizations that come to mind. One is called the Mom Project, and another is really more of, maybe I'd call it more of a community, but Mother Untitled. And both of these are great resources, and both have job boards where companies have basically self identified as like, hey, we want to hire moms. And we see tremendous value in bringing moms who have maybe taken a downshift or a career pause and bringing them back into the workforce with roles that are either flexible with timing or even if it's just like a flexible ramp up back into full time work, they're really passionate about making sure that those moms are retained. So I think those are a couple places to start. But then for yourself and how to actually go about applying and getting these jobs, I think moms don't realize how much of their workload at home is actually really transferable to the workplace, whether you are managing your home's budget or you're running your household and you're getting home repair projects and you're doing all these different things, or you're volunteering at your kids' school, like you're making calls and doing fundraising. You're doing a lot of the skills that you do at a desk job or for a company. So a lot of my experience and my advice is going to be for those seeking more of like a corporate role. It's of course different. I think if you're in like a different like trade type role, but I'd say just start listing out everything you do on a daily basis and start thinking about how could this be applied in a business setting. Like, what are the things I'm already navigating at home, and how can I translate those into something I could do for more people or for a product, and start there. But I'm really excited, and I wish you the best. I'm excited to see more moms coming back to the workforce because we need you big
Yeah.
time.
And I'll link those resources in the show notes as well. I didn't know
Awesome.
that there were companies. I never really thought about that. But what a good thing for the companies to do to try to hire moms. Like they want to hire moms, and I know that's like a big struggle. And it's one thing that like my mom, she was out of the workforce for over 20 years, and got
Yeah.
divorced, and then she had to reenter, but she hadn't worked for 20 years. She had a degree, but it at that point,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so I love that. Great. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for being on the podcast today. This has been a really great conversation. I You can go and follow Sarah on Instagram and TikTok. Her handle is the corporate mama, and I will link her account as well in the show notes. But I really appreciate you showing up and taking time out of your busy schedule, your busy mom. So definitely appreciate it. And I hope we chat again soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Love being here with you today. Have an awesome rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon.